So in the second part of the Ross Embleton interview, we're going to have a specific chat on Leyton Orient. We've had a lovely walk around the park in Epping, approaching 7k, and we've had a great insight, I think, to Ross's current career at West Ham, and obviously the experience and times at other clubs, Spurs, Swindon, that built him up to his current role and rounded his CV. But obviously, most people know Ross from his time at Leyton Orient. We've touched on a little bit that he went in as a 16-year-old and worked his way up from community coach to academy coach, etc. But Ross, let's talk about, so as you said, the club obviously had gone through massive troubles. Obviously, we won't touch on that, but the mad Italian had sort of run Leyton Orient into the ground.
Yeah.
When did you get the call to say to come back and sort of build it up? By this point, obviously, we're in the conference.
Yep.
What did we have? 3 players? 3, 4
I think it was 7.
7 players.
Yeah, 7, but all like
kids.
Yeah, Dan Appy, Justin Edinburgh, Karoma.
Yeah.
Feel bad not knowing all of them, but that little gang.
Yeah.
Sarge.
Yeah.
Juddy.
Yeah. So it was basically the second year YTs, wasn't it?
Yeah. That all now become like first year pros, if you like. The mad thing was, like, obviously, I just referenced there about it being my club, and I still always say that, because of being a season ticket holder and a kid going over there. But obviously, there was a lot of stuff that was happening as the demise was going through that I was watching from afar. But it was very similar to how we were living at Swindon.
Yeah.
Owner was in a very erratic state. By no means the same as the mad Italian. But we could feel our experience unravelling at Swindon.
Yeah.
In the same way.
You were at Swindon at this point, right?
We could feel that. Me and Luke, in terms of recruitment, hadn't been very good.
Right.
We were too inexperienced for the level, never had enough depth at the level, and we were struggling. So, but every week I used to drive home. Yeah. Back to where I lived, and I used to stop at the Marriott quite a bit, whether it's someone dropping me off or whatever. And the amount of times I used to get out to see a different Orient manager in there having a beer or drowning his sorrows. Yeah. And then at the back end of it was Omar and that, seeing them. And I didn't really know them, but to see them in their Orient stuff, it was just, none of us really even spoke about anything because it was just everyone going through like what felt like the worst experience ever at the time. So then obviously I left Swindon, and I was out of work, so I was looking at for some different opportunities, and one of the things that started to get talked about was the takeover. Obviously, as soon as Matt Porter and Lingy were...
Did you know beforehand?
No, I didn't. And obviously, I'd known Martin, and I'd been in touch with him, and obviously, when he was really ill, I was living with him at Swindon before he left. Right. And then, obviously, I used to go around his house all the time just to know that he was okay, you know?
Sure.
And then when he come back out of that, he gave me a call to say, look, like it is in football all the time, people throw little things out, you start getting excited. So the amount of times I say to people now, like, just take it in your stride, because there's a good chance it won't happen. It might have been in right intentions, but it might not evolve. So I kept hoping, but thinking, there's no way this is going to happen. Like, going to go back in at that level. And then it started to become a little bit more real. And I actually had an interview as an assistant in the National League with another club. Yeah. And I was walking in the doors at the Marriott. And as I walked in, Waltham Abbey, and as I walked in the door, Martin phoned me. Yeah. And he was like, what are you doing? I said, I'm just about to go for an interview. And he went, right, go for the interview, but I was so close. Yeah. He said, and then obviously once you've had the interview, you might or may not have a decision to make. Yeah. And, to be honest, interview was okay. Yeah. But the whole time I was talking about, just thinking, please let the Orient thing come off. Yeah. And then a couple of days later, obviously, Nigel and Kent took over the club. Martin went back, and as I've said previously before, I walked in the door, and his first thing to me was, right, we've got 7 players. Yeah. I've got no footballs. Webby's about to come back in to take the 18s. I haven't got a manager. Yeah. I need you to, every time a player turns up, just to have training organised. Yeah. We're already, I think, 3 weeks into pre-season. Yeah. Just go and get the football bit organised for me, and I'll have a job for you. Yeah. I don't know what it'll be, but I'll have a job for you. So we had to go and speak to Adrian and find out whether there was a bag of footballs to do something with the 7. But obviously we'll go through the Orient stuff in more detail, but to be able to look back from then to the day I left,
100%.
to build a club, but not only that, my club, from, like, I keep referring to it as ground zero, to a club that was back in the Football League and comfortable. I don't know anyone else that's been able to do that.
Nah, so it's amazing.
It's incredible, really.
Like to as you say, to have the success you did, obviously getting us out of the National League, but to actually have a massive sort of impact in just getting it back to normality, is like most people can't even dream of. Like, because everyone knew it was bad, but unless you were involved, like you speak about Omer and the guys that were on that side, or as a fan going to watch the games, and were like, people didn't realise how bad it was. They knew it was bad, but I don't think they realised how bad it was.
I had my version. Swindon. I now know that my version wasn't as bad as the Orient one.
Absolute everything was a shambles for a couple of years.
Yeah, and I used to hear the stories, and obviously I've heard more of them once I went back to the club. But yeah, like you say, until you live something, the other part of it I'm sure we'll come on to in a little while, of people not quite understanding how severe something is that's until you're living it. You can't pretend to know, can you? So that first season,
Davis, always come across as a really nice bloke. Had a couple of conversations with him. Where's he now? I know he's done it in the room. Is he under 23s at Wolves?
He's involved at Wolves. I don't know what he's actually,
because he's picked up the interim role a couple of times. Is it Steve Davis?
Yeah.
But obviously we started really, really well, didn't we? Did we win 6 out of 7 or 7 on the bounce? And then
I think pre-season was just like incredible, because everyone was just like,
unbelievable,
great, we've got a football team. Like,
my boy was Ross Burt was mascot at Harlow first game, right? Okay. And there was like 2,000 people at Harlow.
It was incredible.
You know, like I think that season, as much as the wheels did come off a little bit properly, there was still a large majority of people was like, "Oh, we don't really care, we've got a comeback."
Yeah,
like, and then it got a little bit, and then it got a bit like, you got these people over here saying, like, sniping, we're not good enough, we've just got a comeback. But the wheels did come off. What was it like during that period? Because obviously you'd never met him before.
No, I'd met him before. We'd played against his crew team at Swindon. And obviously with his crew background, in terms of developing players, because let's remember, like, the 6 or 7, Stephen Alzati was another one I never mentioned. Like, they were a big core of the club, so it was like looking for someone who was going to have a history of managing, but also bringing through young players. So I think that was a big incentive as to why he was brought into the club. And we, like you said, we started brilliantly, didn't we? And then it was just surreal. It's the only thing I can experience. I can say to we were winning, playing games, and coming in at half time thinking we're so much better, and losing 1-0. I remember Macclesfield at home. I remember absolutely dominating the game, hitting the post, and then all of a sudden, Jake Caprice loses his man at the far post. So I'm walking in at half time thinking, we're 1-0 down, with absolutely, and there were so many games like that. And then I think it just got to a stage where no one could break the monotony of what we were going through. Mate, I remember it got to that point where, whether it's confidence or whatever it is, that there was just no belief. And then, like you said, and you can't criticise anyone for going through it, that feeling that everybody had of having their club back, it was almost, you could feel that, oh my God, like, losing is ingrained in this place. And we are, you mentioned Scunthorpe going down, like, we could, if we're not careful, and don't get me wrong, like, I took the 2 games, the Chester one, I don't know if you ever remember it, but we scored a goal that was about 20 yards over the line, and they never gave it. Real injustice. We played Dover, who were top at the time. And I think the thing that everyone found really hard, especially from a supporter's point of view, but definitely internally for us, was we were looking at teams like Dover going, they're top of the league, but the club had just been through so much turmoil. We'd lost Josh Coulson and George Ellacobi, who was really important to the group individually. And we just seemed to miss being able to have that personality and character at that level.
I can remember 2 games.
Going to like, so we'd had that. My interim period was 2 draws, Chester and Dover, and then we went to Torquay. I just remember standing there thinking, what is going on here? Like, whatever we tried was just like really, really bad.
That first season in the conference, I can remember 2 games. One, we lost, was it 1 or 2-0 at lunchtime on Sky at Boreham Wood? Yeah, and that scarred me from that going to that place forever.
Yeah.
But the worst one was it 6-1 at Bromley?
Oh my God, yeah.
And I remember getting in the car on the way home and like, I was just in shock. So God knows what it was like for you lot, because, and then we went there in the second year, got done again. 3-1, 4-1. Did Marv get sent off, or someone got sent off?
I went 1-0 up, didn't we?
Like, so obviously it turned sour.
One of the things that we didn't get right at that point in that level was there were so many things that made people think it was non-league.
Yeah.
And instead of being able to cope with that at times, I think without realising it, so many people, whether it's the players, whether it's the staff, fans, all of us all together, it was like a little bit like, what are we doing here? And then when we talked earlier about all them clubs that have suffered, I think that's a big part of why it goes wrong for people. Is they're like, you seen the time wasted? You seen they've left their pitch long, or they ain't watered it, or we're playing on Astro. Like all them
the little bit,
like,
not big time, but like it's what like the
I'm sorry we got relegated at Swindon, but like weeks before, like I was walking out in League One at Bolton. Do you know what I mean? And like I say, at the time, I know this is only an assumption, but at the time I think everybody, oh, what are we doing here? Oh, we've got Chorley away. Like, well, we are. You know what I mean? So you've got to deal with it.
The performance thing is aside, but as a supporter and my love of non-league, like those 2 years I absolutely loved.
Yeah.
Because you could have a beer on the terraces. If me and Bertie wanted to come over and have a chat with you, we'd come over. Like you talk about the Wrexham game earlier, still remember it, got the pictures, you know, Justin Edinburgh off the coach, made fuss about, like it was, just felt after. I think it obviously coincided with the mess that we'd gone through for the last couple of years. But like the warmth of non-league for just being able to,
just how real it was.
Just rock up, have a beer, have a burger, have a bit of a laugh.
It was almost like stepping back in time. To a degree,
it was. That's exactly.
When I always remember we played Halifax at home, right? And there was, you know what it's like, or was like at Orient then.
Is that what the geezer with a massive throw, the left back?
No, that was Barrow.
That's it. Jones,
the left footer. Went to Salford. We played Halifax at home, and Steve might have been still in charge at the time.
Yeah.
And Dean had a goal kick. That must have been just because Dean was playing. And Dean kicked it, and it went the length of the pitch. He got Halifax goal, he got in his hands.
Yeah.
He booted it, and it went back to Dean. And then Dean booted it, and then the goalie's got it in his hands, and I'm thinking, there's no way this is going to happen. There's no way this geezer's going to boot it again. At least just kick it off or throw it at someone. Just change it. And I remember thinking, this is so non-league. But like you say, there was something about it. But I think that was the difference. Right? We'll come on to it again in a minute. But the change was, there was an acceptance of, right, boys, this is what it is. Got to deal with it, all of us. We're going to go to some crap places. We're going to go to a couple of games midweek at home when there's only 2,000 because the other team ain't brought no fans. And it's going to be like moany, groany, be quiet, because that's what non-league football is on a Tuesday night. So it was probably a big part of that of, we're actually the better team most weeks, but we haven't got the conviction to, like, knowing that Maidenhead are coming to town, or we're going to Maidenhead, and they're just going to spoil the day.
You've just come up with a great point there. In that period, especially the first year, did you find it better going away? Because away we was filling grounds and taking 1,000, 1,500 at smaller grounds.
Right, you know this better than I do, because you got that love for non-league football still. Is like I always knew, going like to my best mate's dad was a director at Dagenham, so if I weren't at the Orient, I'd go to Dagenham. And it always used to fascinate me that in the first half they'd be kicking towards one goal, and the fans are still but obviously because we were taking so many,
that never happened.
It changed, didn't it? Always when we go to Maidenhead, and the fans going, oh, like, we can't change ends with our team, and it was like, no, you can't, because it's 1,500 Orient fans.
I remember that.
So that was one of the things that really it was, and possibly I think the only thing for us as the team and the coaches was some of the changing rooms you walked into. It was oh god, you look like you could have been on the park. Do you know what I mean?
You had to wear that blue, Joma stuff.
Jacko,
that's it, Jacko. So obviously the first, should we say, 3 quarters of the season, I suppose the first quarter went really well, and then you had a spell where we found ourselves just above the relegation, right? And then obviously in walks Just. How did you know each? Had you met him before?
No, so I'd met him before, but it was nose to nose in the tunnel at Swindon on Boxing Day against Gillingham. And the ball had gone down the tunnel. We were losing, and I run down the tunnel to get the ball. And as I went to grab it, Jimmy Walker, the goalie coach, grabbed it. Yeah. And we're like just trying to get the ball back, just being childish, I suppose. Yeah. And then Just come at me and told me he was going to kill me or something of that. Like, anyway, the next day I got a phone call from like a good friend of mine, and he was like, "What have you done to Justin Edinburgh?" And I was like, "Nothing." He was like, "Well, he come to my house last night for a party on like Boxing Day." He said, and he was going, that trappy little this. And he said, so anyway, I was like, he said, and I was going to, no, he's not like that. Like, you might get a bit excited, but no, that's not what he is. Anyway, like, I got a call in the preparation for him getting the job from his agent saying, like, we've put Just forward. Any sort of words of support you can give him, we'd really appreciate it. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a really good idea. Like, I'm going to be gone when he gets the job. And he come in first day, shut the door, me and him. Right, tell me about the team. Yeah. Tell me what you do to change it. Yeah. But we're all good, aren't we? Like, yeah, absolutely. Let's go. Like, and I literally, from the moment that door opened, like, I've got some great friends. Yeah. I've been friends with for a very long time. Not many of them, but one or two. Yeah. I've never opened the door to someone that I just met like that and clicked in the manner that we did. Did you? Obviously, it was a known fact at the time. I think Lee may have got public, but Lee was very adamant, right, that you and Webby stayed as part of his staff. Well, the thing with it was Webby was still doing the 18s. Right, okay. So when Just first come in, it was just me and Justin. Right. But yeah, you're right. Like, absolutely, I'm sure he said the same thing about Danny staying as the 18s coach. But that was because created a bit of an idea and a bit of a blueprint. Yeah, probably. And people will say it's because of mine and Martin's relationship, but I always sort of think to myself, well, I must have been half decent because he wouldn't just put me there because I was his mate. No. He knew how much I loved the club and obviously the work that I was trying to do. So, but if you was no good, no offence, you'd be doing the under 12s. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they'd just give me something somewhere else. Be in the first team environment. Yeah. So one of the things, like I say, that reassurance wasn't really given to me until it was like down to the last couple that were going to get the job, and then he said, "Look, you're going to stay." Yeah, and I was obviously part of him and Justin's conversations that he'd had with the board about whether or not I was going to be part of that. So obviously I was incredibly relieved. But like I say, as soon as that door opened, I didn't know what we were going to go on to do, but the connection that we had straight away was brilliant. And the changes, like from a football style and personality, just a lot more. Just more on the front foot, right? Being able to cope with the demands of the National League. It wasn't like, because Davis played a very much, as you say, background at Crewe, very much pretty on the eye, trying to play all the time. And I think, if memory serves correctly, we were getting caught out in games where we I think one of the things we were getting were we were working with National League players, or certainly in some cases they were League Two players, but we were working with national players who make mistakes. Yeah, and I think that was what was happening. Is the demand on the team was of a really higher nature in terms of what Steve wanted for them, but there was moments of lapses in concentration, and we were conceding one or two shots at goal in a game, and actually conceding and losing 1-0. Yeah. So there was obviously an error. I think one of the things that Just first did was he outlined straight away to me, right, this is what I don't want and this is what I do want. So I thought his team had always played a diamond when he was at Gillingham, because he had Josh Wright, Jake Hess and Tyler, Bradley Dack in his team. So it formed a diamond. And so I had a load of stuff prepared as a coach to day one to do this. And he said to me, no, I'm going to play 4-4-2. This is how I want it done. This is what I don't want. Yeah. Go out and deliver it. And what would you say was in the don't part, Ross? Overplaying your own half? You don't need to play too much in our own half. I want the actions to end in a cross or a shot. Yeah. I don't want us to overplay and bring any sort of pressure on ourselves. That wasn't so much like don't play. Yeah. It was more, we don't need to bring pressure on ourselves. Yeah. I'm playing their half, like very simplistic, and that's not to take anything away from him, because he was genius in what he did, in as much as some of the other people that we've spoke about in what they did. Yeah. But his thing was, I will make sure that the players are bang at it every day. Yeah. We have to, as a group of staff, and the sessions need to be bang at it every day. These are the things that I don't want to see. Yeah. Like, the rest is up to you. So it was great. So I used to sit down with a number of the players in key areas and like clear key elements of the team and say, right, like when we get into these positions, overlap, and then making sure that my sessions were always intense every day. And they were like, we pressed and we were aggressive and we got around the pitch, and straight away, I don't know if you remember the Sutton game. I know the Solihull one was oh my god, never got the bounce. But when we played Sutton at home, boys had their Christmas do that night. Yeah, and
was that 4-1?
Yeah, 4-1? Absolutely trampled all over it. And I remember the Sutton coach at full time, Doswell and whoever the other one was. As I come down the tunnel, one of them going to me, "Your players are a disgrace." I was like, oh, all right, why's that? The way they've run around today, never done that for Steve Davis. And it wasn't that way. You know what it's like. There was a new energy, there was a new feel, there was a new approach, there was a new system. Like, the boys, I poked fun at them at the time and said to them, amazing what a Christmas do can do for you. You're all going out tonight and you managed to turn up and run around. But that was like the twisting point of thinking, Sutton are up there, they think they're going up or getting close to it. Hang on a minute, like, we are all right. And that was like a big moment of, okay, this is what it's going to take us to get out of the National League.
Did it like, obviously they're different styles. Did he just hold people more accountable, or was he a little bit more maybe aggressive?
No, I think accountable in a different way. It wasn't as much responsibility on the shoulders of like, you need to be in this position or you need to play these passes. It was more, when you get into these areas, this is what I expect. How it looks, how you get it there, how you cross it, or how we score. Ross can worry about that, or you as an individual in that moment can worry about that. I just want you to get into these areas of the pitch to be a threat. And then, like I say, if I created it with an overlap from the fullback, or James Dayton cutting on his left, and it was down to that. So obviously, good players and a good feel to that made that bit of difference. But yeah, it was a massive shift, and you started to think, hang on a minute. And then obviously, like anything, as you start to get success in winning games of football, things start to move and snowball in a certain direction.
So that first season, obviously, you got up a good real bit of steam. There was real momentum. There was obviously a massive shift in confidence and, feeling in the crowd. Did you go away in the summer and think, we're going to have a right go?
Yeah, do you know what? I thought before that. So I don't know if you remember, we had a little bit of a run in the trophy in the first year.
Still can't believe we threw that away.
With Lamar Reynolds in the corner away to Gateshead. But that was a really good moment for us because
we were 3-0 up at home though, weren't we?
That was horrible. And that's where where some of the vulnerability still existed. And obviously
I remember going to
put them right. But we actually, after that game, we almost took a bit of a different stance on it. Of like, rather than, oh God, this is the end of a really weird season. We're just going to see the season out. I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but at the end of every warm-up, I used to get the boys in a huddle. Because once we got in the changing room, it was like the 1980s, like carnage. People shouting and screaming and banging the walls, and Brillo's big voice, Justin's personality. It was like an old-fashioned changing room. So I never used to be able to get a word in edgeways. So I used to get that huddle together after the warm-up, try and get the crowd up a little bit, but then also be able to say to the boys, don't forget, this is where we're going to do well today. And it was like my little moment to get my message across. And I remember the next game after that going out the cup, I remember saying to him, do you know what? If we can start a run now, and you may or may not recognise this, but through the season when we were successful, so many times we used to say, if we achieve what we want to achieve. No one ever used to say go up or win the league. But that was sort of the start of it. We used to get in that huddle and go, 2 games unbeaten. Oh, right, the wheels have come off there, right, back on the horse, keep the momentum. We all know what's expected. And that was when I could feel the momentum start to build. And then, as you say, it's going into the next season. That trip in Portugal was like nothing else I've ever experienced. Because it was like a million miles an hour. Everyone was laughing. Everyone was on a good. We played against Benfica B, the great song the fans were singing. Que Sera Sera. And we played that game, and like they pummeled us first half, and then we come out second half and just went all Orient on them. And ended up with like a really good performance. And there's videos, obviously, and stuff to look back on from that trip where you think, wow, like the momentum that was being built was was going to be hard to match.
Would you say? What would you say, personnel wise? What made the difference in the second season? Any?
Well, I think it was two, wasn't it? Really, like you think about it, up until a certain point in the season. We had a few injuries in the second half of the season when we went to the back three.
Yeah.
We went away to Barnet and they murdered us. We drew 0-0. Remember we scored right
to the death. Yeah.
Got disallowed 0-0.
I went to that game.
We weren't very good, but we'd gone to the back five then, and we had Course, Marv, and we were a back five. It weren't a back three, was it? It was like
Joe left.
Lingy or Juddy or Alex Lawless played there a few times.
Yeah.
Joe Widdowson, and then those three in the back three.
It was Happy, Marv, and Josh Coulson.
And because it was a back five, it sort of made us just get over the line a little bit, didn't it? But I think the first half of the season, the momentum that we built up with the wingers, obviously with Joby and Dates in the first stage, but then Job's moved inside, didn't he, a little bit later. Rofe on one side. Yeah. Jordan Maguire drew in or coming off the bench. He scored an unbelievable goal at Havant and Waterlooville.
It was a great strike.
I think it was that, and then as we started to feel the pressure maybe, or get to the latter stages, we had two of the best forwards the National League's ever seen.
Yeah.
And we had, so them two would get us our chances and get us our goals. Yeah. Jobs was really instrumental, although carrying an injury late on in that midfield three, and then the back five. That I told a story a little while ago. Joe Widdowson works for the PFA now. And
he does. I
was having a chat with him and I was embarrassed him in front of a few people. But I remember playing Chesterfield away, and it was Dates scored an absolute banger of a volley, top corner. Yeah, and
that was quite early on in the first season, wasn't it?
Second season, sorry. And I remember sitting on the bench thinking, like, we've got 20 minutes to go. We are bang under it here.
Yeah.
And I remember the ball going out for a throw, and Joe Widdowson just like strutting over. Like, he could not have been more laid back. And he picked the ball up to take the throw, and I looked and I thought, oh, I think we're going to be all right. Like, look how calm everyone is. So I think it was like twofold. It was a 4-4-2, like up and at you, balls in the box, unbelievable front two in the boys that we had up there. Nothing taken away from Matty Harold. Never forgive me if I never mentioned him, but
that was a different impact, wasn't it? Off the
Absolutely,
bench. Like,
and also he was
like, get it wide and sling it in the box.
He did all his work in the FA Trophy that he done as well. And Matty as a character was immense, just maintaining everything. And obviously I took him onto my staff later on. But I think all of that. And then, like I say, when it got to like squeaky bum time, back five, hard to beat, don't concede too many goals, and it got us through it.
Do you rate that as the like your favourite time in football, that second season?
It's funny how you black out some of the moments, because even when we were winning, there was times I'd get back on the coach and think, oh, am I actually enjoying this? Like, it's so much tension. And I remember
it was basically us and Salford the whole time. It was like
Solihull had a little go, didn't they? But you're right. It was yes is the answer.
Because there was pressure, because even though you was enjoying it, like even as a fan of Dad, Solihull were losing, or
we had a thing, right? There was two things that happened in the season. One was we lost the game or drew a game, and we come in at full time. And I remember looking, I won't say his name because it's embarrassing, but I remember one of the boys straight away phoning his hand, looking to see how Salford got on. And I was like, I am not looking at the fixtures or the results anymore. Because if we win, I know we're still top.
Exactly.
And if we don't, I know we ain't no more. So
exactly.
We're in control of our own destiny. Stop like worrying about.
It was good though, that little tussle, weren't it?
Oh, it's brilliant. And when you think about it, they come to us and like when they come beat us 3, didn't they? And I thought, like we might not be as
beat out that day.
Yeah, we properly did. And then obviously made some really good things. And then, like I say, the other example of when I really thought we were onto a good thing. There was a number of different stuff, but like the late winner, the late goal from Matty at home, and then obviously the Eastleigh goal. Really, really late. There was like a number of moments that make you start thinking, like, we're onto it.
Who was that? Dayton. It was Dayton, wasn't it? Lingy went down. Brophy touched it. Lingy went down the side, didn't it? Dayton back-heeled it to him, but that's it.
And I remember when I got sent off in that Bromley game. It was a really bad tackle, George Porter. On one of the boys, and I overreacted, got sent off, and obviously we got beat. And I remember coming in the next day and feeling horrendous. Me and Just had a really good chat where he could have gone the other way, like we were under pressure, but he sat down and said to me, like, I know how much this means to you, but But we've got a responsibility to the boys and they'll to try and keep our composure.
Sort of take the emotion out of it.
Yeah, well, I think to recognise the emotion first of all, to say to me, like, I know what this means to you, but like I know you've never been through this experience before of like, potentially winning a league, but the extra added strain of it being like Orient, it was for him to, I think, sort of say to me, I understand how much this means, but we got to stay calm, because if we don't, they ain't. And it, without telling me off, he was telling me off probably. Do you know what I mean? So,
but it was the right way, though.
Absolutely, and then try to maintain it for thereafter, you know. So obviously, so we won the league, and obviously at amazing times, and obviously the shall we say, the emotion and job done, and you had the great scenes at the final whistle, everyone on the pitch, and obviously Justin made that great speech. And did you go with the boys when they went away at the end of the season? You and Justin go? No, I don't know why to this day, really. I think, by the way, like the celebrations on the pitch was about right. It was a shambles, wasn't it? Yeah, it was just people everywhere and lifting to be the cup. Fair, though, no, but it was how it should have ended. Yeah, 100%. It was how it started and then how it should end. So
I've got pictures in my office now, me and Bart on the pitch. Like I wouldn't. Maybe the players. I know you went in and lifted it again after, didn't you? The staff, yeah. And I get that bit, but like, I kind of felt like the club deserved that little moment.
No, it was like, everything. Do you know what I mean? It was everything it should have been. Yeah, like, you know, it was the National League, and it's
even the geezer getting caught with a trophy.
Yeah, like, it just ridiculous. Gives it to you. James Dayton was on crutches after that Sutton experience, and like we were all like trying to make sure none of the fans trampled on dates. It was like at the time it was shambles. Like, oh God, but it was a shambles, but it was probably how it should end really, in terms of how it started. But that first thing I did, the full-time whistle went, and I'd been, even though we were that close in the last couple of minutes, people were coming up and patting me on the head on the side and leaning over that bit of tape that I don't know what it does at the stadium. We've done it, and I just couldn't, until the whistle went, couldn't relax. But as soon as the final whistle went, I took that poxy t-shirt off, threw that jacket as far as I could. It was like, that was like a good signifier of that moment. So we all had our celebrations for a few days and that after that, and then I remember saying to my missus, I'm not going to go to Marbella. I'm knackered. I don't think I've got it in me to celebrate anymore or do anything more, so I'm going to leave it. I said, but I know when I tell him I'm going to have to go, because of his energy and don't want anyone to miss out.
Was that one of his greatest things, his energy?
Like when we used to go Friday nights, he just used to take the pressure off of people by having a pint in the hotel night before a game, like just proper normal stuff.
Normal,
but normal but abnormal to a degree. So I went into work on whatever day it was. Like he said, Monday when we get out of the airport on Thursday. Celebrations literally didn't go on that long. I walked in and I was just gearing up to go to him. Like, I don't really fancy it. And he went, "Can I have a word?" And we'd had the Star Man dinner. Clay was out of control, drunk, and he shut the door on me the same way he did when we first met. And he went to me, "Listen, mate, I'm not going to Marbella." And I thought, thank God for that. So I said, "I'm glad you said that. I'm not going to go either."
Did Matty go?
Everyone went. Webby went. All the staff all went. And I just said to him, "I'm going to go away with the family instead." So we went to Bournemouth for a few days instead. And I remember, in hindsight, now looking back, it was probably the best thing. Because I hadn't gone away and done all the carnage with them. Because obviously what happened then, I had a different responsibility.
The reason why I asked Ross is my only, I would say, and I don't begrudge. I'm like, being a player, I'd have gone Marbella as well. But I suppose the only blot on our copybook that year was the trophy final. Was it you and Justin? Was just one of them things, or was?
I was devastated
because we should have won, right?
Even when you watch the game, not only should we have won on status, but we should have won on the day.
Who shot on it? Hit someone on the bum on the line.
Matt Harold, he'd gone past the keeper.
He was literally, he turned his back on the line to get out of the way, and it
didn't Jordan have a free kick that hit the post?
It was ridiculous.
Marv had a header that hit the post. I don't know. And I was devastated because
I think because of the year before and like being in non-league, the FA Cup's done, isn't it?
Cool.
Like, you got to forget about it. But like that was our FA Cup. We were in the final,
and we had 24,000 Orient fans and about 3,000 fans, and like. Yeah, I was devastated because.
Was it just one of them for the players? Just
no, I think what happened was we had 3 weeks between winning the league.
That is a long time.
And I don't know if you remember. So give them like the carnage week after we won it, and then it was like, right, we're back in for the 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and we ended up playing Villa. Dean Smith sent us and Villa. Was it Norwich or Villa? Villa. Right, Villa under 23s playing Norwich in pre-season. He sent us Villa under 23s and. It was the end of the season for them.
Yeah.
And it was the end of the season, and it was like even the crowd were in, and there was a good number of people. There was probably like a bit like an EFL trophy game.
Yeah.
But it just never had the intensity of a proper game.
Yeah.
And then obviously when you think back, like Fylde went playoffs.
Yeah.
Because they were good that year.
Yeah, they were.
They went playoffs, 2 games. Playoff final, and then played us. So they were still bang at it.
Yeah.
And I think for the first half, we just never quite got going. In the second half, we found our rhythm, and we just couldn't score. But I was devastated.
They had the boy up front Rowe, was it Rowe?
Danny Rowe scored the free kick.
And Horton in midfield.
Yeah.
Still, I think he was still on fire.
Yeah,
season.
They had good players. But I was gutted because I remember at full time, just walking around, looking up, 24,000 Orient fans, like. Everyone was celebrating, but I was like, I ain't going to... What's the chances of me being back at Wembley?
Nah.
Like, working for Leyton Orient. I was gutted, and I always remember being in the change room afterwards and just doing another one of his fantastic speeches of saying, boys, we achieved what we wanted to achieve. We're all gutted we've lost at Wembley, but we done it. Yeah. And I remember Nigel and Kent coming in, sitting in the change rooms at Wembley, like, what's the matter with you? And I was like, I just walked up the steps, like, and we'd lost.
It's kind of like
we're back where we belong. It was like you was at
the pinnacle, but you hadn't really.
Yeah, and I hadn't done it. I'm going back there as well, and I'm probably right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but obviously the next part is obviously one of deep sadness, and I don't want to go too deep into it, obviously, because I'll well up, and obviously I don't have the same relationship that you had, and obviously you become best mates. But how was I remember speaking to you during that point, and I still remember where I was when I got the phone call. Everything, like, how was that? Just surreal? Was that just surreal?
Do you know the mad thing is, like, like winning the league, we had like pivotal moments that I can pick out, but there's still things that come up now that I talk about, and I think I've never mentioned that before. Because it was just so many things that arose. Like, I don't know about you, but I've always lived this thing of wherever I go, there's always an Orient fan.
Yeah, mate.
But there's never many of us. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Mine's Harlow. I can travel anywhere in the world, and I'll always bump into someone from
Harlow. Right. Yeah. But I always think I find an Orient fan somewhere. And I went to Spain, right, on holiday. So we'd had all the celebrations. We all went away, and we'd done what we were doing. And I was on an aeroplane. Got off. Oliver had his yellow Orient shirt.
Bert's got the same one,
and it was
dream team, wasn't it?
That was it. We was on a plane going to Spain, and there was loads of Tottenham and Liverpool fans. Tottenham Liverpool Champions League final. Tottenham Man City?
Tottenham Liverpool. Yeah,
it was Tottenham Liverpool
because that's where Just went to work.
So he'd gone, right? So we get off the plane, and I'm going to Ollie. These lot are all going to drive across Spain because they're going to the game. Like, Just's going, like, blah blah blah. And as we got off, they were all singing Liverpool, Tottenham, blah, blah. And he went to me, Dad, can I sing We Are the Champions? And I went, mate, you can do what you want. And as he said it, this lady standing there, she hadn't said a word. She just leant over and she went, when you're an Orient fan, you can do whatever you want. and like little things that stick in your mind. And then while I was away, he texted me about a player. Do me a favour, mate, have a look at this lad. Phone me up, look, this is him, blah, blah, blah. So I remember sitting in the apartment with my mate, watching him. And I won't say the player's name, but
of course.
I remember watching him and going, he ain't a replacement for Josh Karoma. No way. So I sent him like a big long report on all the stuff I'd watched on it. He never replied. And all I'd got, that was the last conversation, but the only other conversation on the phone I'd had with him before was, mate, I got a little bit drunk at the Champions League final. If you see anything on Twitter or social media that looks bad on me, will you let me know so I'm prepared? And it was just him dancing and singing like on the stage.
Yeah.
But he'd sent me this message about this player, and I sent him this big thing back, big report on him saying, I don't think he's for us. And he never replied to me. And I remember going to my mate and that while we was on holiday, what if we've already signed him?
Yeah.
And I've just like absolutely hammered him.
Yeah.
And he ain't replied. And then I got the phone call to say originally that he'd collapsed and like the start of all of that really, which was like obviously a week or 10 days in terms of going through that. And still now, like as you start talking there, I don't get like spine tingling moments about anything in comparison to that. Every time that it just starts being spoken about, I just it's still the most surreal experience of my life, to be honest.
And I think obviously looking at and having my association with it is one thing, but obviously you weren't just someone that you went to work with, right? In a football environment, you're spending hours upon hours, coach trips, away trips, like it's a bond, a real bond. So obviously, unfortunately, Justin passes away. There's a horrible period in the club because at the same time, you've got to prepare for the next season, right?
Yeah.
Football don't stand still. Football clubs don't stand still. How was that? Probably one of the most difficult things you've ever had to do?
The most. Yeah, the most. Because what obviously I went out to Boston to visit Nigel.
Yeah.
And we were sort of told like you've got to go out there because
you went with a couple of players.
Yeah, me, Craig Clay, Josh Coulson, Lingy, and it was a bit like, well, we shouldn't go, and then it was like, well, if we stay here, what are we going to do?
Yeah. So
we've got these commitments, we've got to see them through because hopefully he wakes up in a minute. That was the feeling that we were all living by. So we went out to Boston, and literally from it felt like somehow in the air. By the time we landed, it was like the worst had happened.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden, like the experience to have to go through and like little things like obviously I'm with Craigie, I'm with Josh, I'm with Martin, Nigel, Rich Emmett. But then I'm miles away from my missus and my kids.
Sure.
I'm having to try and communicate with my daughter and my little boy who had never lost anyone before. Nan's granddad, no one. I'm having to tell him that he's passed away. Like,
and he looked good with you. Like I know he was good. I know I've heard other players, but like I can remember at that end last game when we won, like he had Oliver on his shoulders.
Yeah.
Like so,
there's a video of us after the trophy final. We had a party at the Marriott. Yeah. And there's a video of him and Poppy dancing, like he's holding a dancing, and just like I say, spine tingling moments that you can't take away, but you just indescribable, to be honest. So and then obviously what we're having to do then is, like, little did we know it, but none of us had ever had a Zoom call before.
No,
we're having like a conference call with the players and the staff that we could get in touch with. Like, I personally phoned every member of staff.
And in the summer, everyone's on their holiday, right?
Yeah. So I'm having a conversation with Emma Balgurst on the other side of the world, in wherever she was, Joe Austin, Keaton, Melvin, Webby, Reese. I phoned every single member of staff to tell them what had happened. Yeah. So you can imagine that, like, not only has it happened and you're having to live through it and grieve yourself, but you're having to have the same conversation like 12 times. Yeah. Adam the chef, like Elliot Byrne, like, and I'm on the phone to all of them, or texting them to say, I know you're on holiday, but can I have 5 minutes of your time? Yeah. Then probably phoning me or waiting for a phone call, knowing what I'm probably going to say before it got out. Do you know what I mean? So
you've had to call every member of staff. So basically, you're living through it every time.
Yeah, every time. And then we had the conference call for Martin and Nigel to speak to all the players, or everyone went on the conference call, but to inform the players officially. So, and then obviously, like I say, not being at home with a family and being able to, like, I have to tell my missus and daughter and little boy over the phone what that. And then obviously, like, and then you're in Boston living like the committing to the work that we're having to do. Yeah. And like feeling guilty and not for having to go out and mix and socialise in like wonderful circumstances. It was just, there's no real words to describe it. And then obviously when we come back, we had to do the same again. We didn't have to see everybody by person, but obviously everyone was on holiday. Yeah. So we had the group get together where there was probably 12 of the players, and then we had to do the, like Marv and James Alabi and Jordan Maguire, people that were away for longer or at different times. Like, so every time they then come back, you had to then do the same thing again.
Sure.
And me and Josh Coulson landed from America, got straight in the cars, picked the families up, went straight to the stadium, and there was a lot of the boys there who I don't need to mention, but they'll know who they are, that were all coming back from like a party or a stag do or a birthday abroad, and met us at the stadium at the same sort of time, and we went through the thing of going around and seeing all the flowers and the book and the memorial book and that sort of stuff, like just a constant like wave and constant repetitive wave of going through it, and that's without like all the things of, not going into too much detail, but obviously with Kerry and Sydney and Charlie and all the people that were incredibly close to him, that we'd all become incredibly close to because we were so attached, so that was really tough. And then obviously, like you just said there, like we had to start thinking about what a football team was going to look like, and who was going to be able to step up, step forward. We knew there was going to be managers that would want to take the job. Football carries on, doesn't it? Like, of course. As harsh as it is, we knew there was going to be, but was there anyone? No, there wasn't anyone that actually lived that experience before. No. And I just said flippantly at the time, I'd do it, because like when we are through the worst, or when we are in that position where we feel like we can evolve and move on again, you can just move me back or move me aside, or I don't know, get rid of me if you have to. But like at least I'm here and everybody knows me. Yeah. And I don't want to be the manager, so it's fine, because when you don't want me to be anymore, you ain't going to get me kicking and screaming. Do you know what I mean? So, and obviously, naturally, no one really knew what was the right thing to do. But me and Nigel had a real good bit of a ding dong at dinner one night, talking about management, and it was like we've spoken about. It wasn't all about football; it's just about things in general and
managing relationships.
There was a lot of common themes in that we talked about, and I remember Lingy saying to me, like, he'd spoken to Craig and Josh and he talked about my coaching and the relationship that everybody had with me. And when we got in the car after mine and Nigel's debate, Lingy sort of said to me, like, I think you might have just passed your interview. And I was like, oh, I wasn't trying to. He was like, no, I know you wasn't, but just looking at that conversation you just had and how confident you was to stand your ground with the owner, like, on a completely neutral subject, you might find that he might ask your help for the next little while, which is obviously what happened. Yeah, so over that next couple of year period before you left the football club, obviously you had spells of being a manager, you had spells of going back into your old role and then take it in again. I was very privileged a couple of times coming to the training ground, watch you train, and do you ever regret taking that job? I do and I don't. I do only because you just looked. So the times that I come in, and obviously... I remember you came in late as well, didn't you? Like right near the back end of it. Very, very gracious that we were trying to do some things in other parts of the world at the time, and I just saw that, like you were saying, you didn't have that Monday morning feeling, like in academy football, right? Yeah. You just look like, as all managers, there's a lot of stress and strain, and we was going for a rough period, but even in that rough period, when we went outside and you was taking a session, that all sort of disappeared, and you was back doing what you loved doing and coaching, and what I would always have said at that time as being good at. Yeah, like that was what my strengths were, being out there on the grass. I hate that phrase now. Do you do and you don't regret? No? I do regret it because it means it all came to an end. Yeah, and even though it's like incredible now when I go back, and fans are unreal with me, and I never got to experience a lot of that during my managerial period because of COVID. Yeah, but I was afforded I am now afforded the thing of people really being appreciative, so I get a bit more feel from it there. But the fact that as soon as I became that person, became that manager, went into that role, it always meant that it was going to come to an end, and all good things come to an end, don't they? But I just felt that it didn't quite need to, because I was I was good at what I did.
You know, as a manager, at one point you're going to get sacked.
Of course, absolutely. And also, I knew that as an assistant, that might come to an end at some stage. But I just didn't think it was at that point.
At that point,
and I felt I could be really useful to anybody coming in, whether I remained as assistant coach or
consultant, coach, whatever. Yeah,
right around that group, I just knew that I could have effect on players and the team. And I always knew, and I even said it, like when I got the job, I'd done an interview with a son, and I actually said, I know there's Orient fans that won't want me to be the manager. I was the under-9s coach. Like, who wants the under-9s coach to be their manager? And I meant that, and also meant the fact that I didn't ever really see like huge amount of success coming my way. I always looked at it and thought, like, if I'm going to be top at what I do, I don't know if I've got the capabilities, and also like I'm just me. Like I'm Ross Embleton. Like who anywhere is going to want me as their manager?
See, I don't agree. I don't agree with that bit that you're not good enough to be a manager. I just don't think that you, like, even when we used to speak as mates, like I always felt like not your heart weren't in it because you give everything that you had to it, but it just wasn't what you want to do.
Yeah, that's and
you know what I mean. I think that's
a really good way of putting it, isn't it? Like it wasn't that my heart weren't in it because like we started off this conversation with. I threw absolutely everything into it. I look 100%. At photos of myself now and think, oh my God, look at the state of him. I'm not too different now. But you know what I mean? Like I look at photos and I think, wow, remember my aunt knitted me an Orient scarf. Yeah. And I wore it and she asked me to send her a selfie and I remember looking at the photo and thinking, oh my God, who is that? Because I was throwing so much into it. So my heart was in it, but my heart wasn't, you put it
probably your heart was in it to do well for the football club, but the heart weren't in it for you. I don't think.
In terms of what I was doing, because it wasn't something I saw as my strength. But I think one of the things that I can hold my head up high with and look back on like fondly is that I never had a failure. Like I failed because I got the sack, and I lost my job, and I've left a club I love. But I never failed because I didn't get relegated. I got us up, stayed up, and then managed through COVID, and we was having a bit of a dodgy run. And we were mid-table in the league, probably after we went 5th, didn't we, in January? And I remember thinking, oh my God, I don't know if we're good enough for this, but to go somewhere, do you know?
Yeah, but to go through that and then get the terrible period of COVID and manage it through that, no one had seen that before either.
So and you know, as a fan, right? So when you watch Orient, and most clubs, but we can only relate it to Orient because it's the club that we've been to watch. So you can feel the momentum coming.
Yeah, of course you can.
At Brisbane Road sometimes. So there was so many times. We're going to score him. We're going to score him, or we're going to get back in this. And the league winning season tells you that. But I remember the amount of times I'd be sitting on a bench, and Matty Harold or Dean would go to me. Oh, this is normally when the crowd just suck it over the line. And we'd come off, we'd lose 3-2 or 1-0 and think, that moment never come, like where the pressure got felt. And it, like, of course, there's little things that I look back on and think, I could have done that differently, we should have done more of this. But ultimately, like that was, I just always felt it would come to an end, you know what I mean? And which it does.
Yeah, everything.
I remember meeting Kenny Jackett after he'd been sacked at Orient, and he was saying to me, it's what we sign up for. And I went to him, the thing is though, Kenny, I don't know if I did. I just sort of ended up doing it.
Did you take it more, Ross, the way I look at it is like you was doing the honourable thing for Justin? Like.
Well, at the time, but I knew that I was doing the honourable thing for Justin and the club to try and help us through that period. Yeah. And I thought I'd got us, we hadn't got through the period when Carl Fletcher come in. Yeah.
Did you think you was going to get through that period and then say, actually, Ross, drop back now?
Yeah, and someone else would come in, we're ready to move on. Yeah. And obviously, they tried it. I think a lot of the players felt when Carl Fletcher came in, it was at that stage to move on. Yeah. And Nigel had met with everybody and they all sort of spoke about how they felt and how it felt day to day. Yeah. And then they asked me and I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I'm not ready for it. Which is hence then the time that Carl come in, and it obviously didn't go how everybody hoped that it would for him. And then obviously, then after that, then I think it was a bit like, what do we do now? Yeah. Like, he either goes in and takes it, obviously after another little period of interim. Yeah. Or we've got to make wholesale change. Do you know what I mean? But the wholesale change or the change that had just happened with Carl hadn't worked as well. So there was still that grey, which suggests the club probably weren't quite ready.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so many people through that period.
It's tough, right?
Yeah.
When you're going through that and then you've got COVID, like when is the right time? Like,
Exactly.
no one knows. No one's lived through that before. But from me being an Orient fan, I think like you'll always be regarded as a legend. Like you've done every job at the club. You picked it up in unbelievable circumstances of grief and pushed on with that. And I just think things don't always a fairy tale. Like if you flip it a little bit and say, if you'd have gone up in that, in that first season maybe, and you got us promoted, would you still be a manager now? Would you still be involved in football? Like you could have taken us up and thought, you know what, football management's for me. Absolutely. And then get sacked 6 weeks later,
and then you're scrambling around living in Grimsby,
and then you disappear.
And I think the other thing, like when I'm asked the question of like, do you regret it or is it something? The actual thing around it is that a lot of it I don't, because now I go into a room and I feel like I'm bulletproof. I feel like I can go in with anyone and think, well, this ain't pressure.
No.
Like I can tell you about pressure if you want.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so actually, when I put it like that in my longer career terms, it's actually helped me. Do you know what I mean?
And also, again, there ain't many people, like you're in academy recruitment now. There ain't many people that has managed in the Football League doing academy recruitment.
No, and
even look at your colleagues, right? They've had good careers, but they haven't got the experience.
And one of the things I'm on a course at the minute that's like around talent ID and leadership.
Yeah.
And we had to do a 5-minute speech introduction on ourselves.
Yeah.
And I said then what I'd done in my career. I talked about the toughest moment in my career as a theme to talk about, because we had to come up with one for each one of us. And when I told everyone I was a manager, people were like, what?
Yeah.
Because no one knows who I am. So, do you know what I mean? So it's a different angle to me going about whatever has come around since.
I just think it's give you an amazing background to just continue a football career, right? And I just think you were so much happier. I think, I'm not saying you couldn't do it, but I always could see it in your heart of hearts that you was doing it because it was Leyton Orient.
Yeah.
Now let's say that happened at Walsall. I don't think you would have taken it.
No.
Or if you weren't working for Justin at Walsall, I think you'd have just said, I'll stay as I am, or I'll have to go with a manager and find another job.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was because of that emotional attachment that you stood up, and I think that's probably one of the most honourable things that you could have done. Right?
And like I say, I can, although it's like possibly the worst thing in the history of the club.
Yeah.
I can say that I've had an impact on, like I say, my football club and helping people. That's the other thing. Like for me, yes, the club came through it and all of that sort of stuff, but there was a group of people that suffered an incredible loss, whether you was obviously his family, the most important thing, but fans, players, staff at the club, like I played my part in helping us out of that. Do you know what I mean?
It's a different type of help, but like you come in when we had nothing and built it back up, and then obviously you sort of put the pieces back together when the club was going through grief.
And I sent messages out to Richie, to Paul Terry, Matty Harold, Joe Austin, Lingy, Matt Porter, all the owners, Kent, Nigel, Marshall, when they got promoted under Richie. And the nice thing was that one or two of them, Richie included, come back and said, thanks for playing your part in it. People that weren't at the club at the time, and I thought, that's class. At least some people recognised it, you know what I mean?
No, I think you played a massive part. Mate, listen, we have talked for nearly 2.5 hours. We've done nearly 10 kilometres of walking.
Steps are up. I'm going to sit down now.
I just think you're just one of a kind, mate. As I say, I really appreciate not just this chat, but I think everything you've got to offer in football. You've always helped massively with Bert. And whatever's next, as I say, I think you'll make a great success at West Ham, continuing that. And I know you've got some programmes in place to continue in the sort of education and help for footballers, not just in the system, but when they come out of the system. But mate, I can't thank you enough for giving up your time, and wish you all the best.
Top man, appreciate it, mate.
Go and sit down.
Thanks for having me on.
Cheers, mate.